Hey guys, it's John. You're on the JRB Tree Climbing channel. Very popular question I get is how a saddle hunter could create their own lineman's belt. So the first thing I want you to understand is that the device we call a lineman's belt, well, technically it's more of a positioning lanyard. We shouldn't make the mistake of assuming, because it would be incorrect, that a lineman's belt that I just affixed on the tree is a fall prevention device. It is not. It is merely a lateral positioning device that gives you some lateral stability. But you'll never see me use a lineman's belt for any purpose unless I'm already tied into the tree. We always have to have a cinching connection to the tree, and an open lineman's belt is not that. Be aware of that, please, and please take that to heart in your own climbing. Now, as an experienced climber, I rarely use a lineman's belt. I don't typically carry one. But I've discovered that I can create a lineman's belt quite inexpensively. And I can use it for other purposes. So I just put it on the tree. Some features it has one-handed operation. So I want to make it shorter, I can do so with one hand. Self-tending. And if I want to make it longer, I can do that with one hand. But typically when we're actually on the hunt, we are not wearing a lineman's belt. It's typically used by stick climbers on the way up the tree. So how can we use this for another purpose if we want to carry one? Well, with a very easy transformation, I can turn this into my bow and gear hanger. I simply take it off my waist. If it wasn't already around the tree, I get it at the height I want it. Say I want it right here, and without any other reconfiguration, I can cinch that on the tree at the location I want. And I've got a clip on it for my bow. You could have multiple clips. I'll rotate it a bit so you can see that. And I'm going to put that over here on the left side, because as a right-handed hunter, that's typically where I would hang my bow. But most hunters will also carry a pack. So I've got a little shoulder bag here. It's been with me a long time. And again, without any reconfiguration, I didn't need any other carabiners. I didn't need to grab anything else out of my bag. There's nothing I could have dropped. I can affix my pack at whatever location on the tree that I desire. If I wanted to rotate that a bit, there we go. Want to loosen it? Want to tighten it? Okay, let's talk about the third function. The third function, I'll take my bag off, is if you are a rope climber like I am, and you find yourself, as I am right now, with a tie-in point that's a good, 12, 13 feet over my head, and I want to be tied in closer, I can utilize this device to grab my rope. It becomes a deflector. It deflects my climbing rope, and I can cinch it to the tree. And now this angle has changed, affording me better stability as a hunter. And I can still use it for the aforementioned purpose. I still have my bow holder over here, and I still have my gear hanger. And of course, you could put this on at a different location, but I've got a spare carabiner, and so I just tend to use it in that mode. I've got this right where I want it. I'm going to show you how to build it. It's got a number of knots, but you know how to tie them already because I've shown you those in prior videos. Let's get a little closer look. Now, if we don't want to lose our lineman's belt, I typically keep mine clipped on my right lineman's loop and leave it in a saddlebag. But just be aware, anything we can drop, we eventually will. So please think about that. One end really just has a scaffold knot and carabiner, and then I have an alpine butterfly. The alpine butterfly isn't used in lineman's mode. It's benign. It's not being used at all. But when used as a lineman's belt, I get this nice one-handed operation. Let's do it with my left hand so I don't obscure your view. And when used as a gear hanger, instead of attaching the two carabiners together, instead of attaching these together, I'll take the carabiner that would be on my right hip, and I will attach it into the Alpine Butterfly. I can change my tension, and I've got that gear hanger, and there could be multiple, and I can position that wherever I want it. And when I use it as a rope deflector, I simply pass my lines through here. Let's get that on there, and let's get that nice and snug. Okay, so I built this so that it will work on a fairly substantial tree in terms of diameter. I know this looks like a big tree. It didn't look like a big tree when I planted it and was 1 foot tall. So again, I rarely use climb something this big, but I can use it. So here's my one-handed operation. I'll use my left hand. That's the one-handed operation. Now, when we want to use it as a gear hanger, I'll remove it from me. I'm going to rotate it into view. Turns out it will just barely fit on this big tree, but it will. And here's how I use it. First, I'll tension it. Okay, and here is the clip I use as a gear hanger. I'll rotate that where I want it. And because I've got this extra carabiner, I'll simply attach my pack to it. And you could have multiple gear hangers around the tree. All right, let's go build one. Okay, let's build a lineman's belt. What do we need? We only need one type of cordage. This is a 10-foot length of sterling TRC. That's only 6mm core, but it's got an MBS of 15.5 kilonewtons or 3,500 pounds. Sure, we wouldn't climb on this. We wouldn't use it as a lifeline. We wouldn't use it as a tether. I don't even recommend the use of a tether. Always use a lifeline. This is simply our lineman's belt, our positioning lanyard, our gear hanger, or our rope deflector. And this is more than adequate for it, and it's quite rugged. So I've got a 10-foot length for the main body, and I've got a 4-foot or 48-inch length for my Blake's hitch, the adjustable side. One end I've taken the liberty of sealing that with adhesive shrink wrap tubing like I have on both ends of the other one, and the other side I just have a piece of tape on it because we're going to cut this off when we find the optimal length. What else do we need? And refer to my website, jrbtreeclimbing.com, where I will keep you updated on materials as they become available. But I love these standard D carabiners from Omega Pacific. They're triple action, and they work with a pull action, not a push action. So it's pull up on the gate and twist, and they're triple action, quite inexpensive. This entire contraption I can build with today's market price. The cord is less than 20 bucks. So for 20 bucks and your carabiners, you can build one. What else do we need? We need our tender will be a link of chain. That's what we're going to use as the tending device on our Blake's hitch. This is a single link of galvanized 1/2 inch chain. You can get that at a hardware store and simply cut it off. Alternatively, you could use a screw link, a galvanized screw link that you find at the hardware store. I just find the chain to be more elegant, more compact, but either will work. What else do we need? Well, our gear hanger itself, what I tend to use are the ends from a cheap bungee cord. So I save those after they wear out. Didn't cost me anything after I took my bungee cord to its life expectancy. These are quite strong, and they work really well for hanging gear or for hanging a bow, depending on the design of your bow. Or use your own favorite hook. Get creative. That's just a detail. And I will be attaching that on just using 2 cable ties. let's get started. How do we build this? I'm going to take the 10-foot length, and I'll start by assembling the end that goes on my left hip. Again, I'm right-handed, so if you're left-handed, you might want to reverse the sides, but it's quite simple. I'm simply going to be tying a scaffold knot. See my prior video on the scaffold knot, poacher's knot, and overhand noose knots. How do we tie a scaffold knot? I'll take a couple inches over my left finger as the standing end. I'm going to go over my finger 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And now I'll take the working end and shove it back through that assembly such that it emerges here with a loop. I will have to reorient to do that. I'm sure you know how to tie a scaffold knot, and if you don't, please refer to my prior video. But now we've got a scaffold knot, and notice that I've got the tail not too long and not too short. This will accept one of my carabiners. That'll go on my left hip. Now I'm going to tie an alpine butterfly, or also known as the butterfly knot. See my prior video tying the alpine butterfly and double alpine butterfly, but here's how I do it. I take the working end after forming this loop, this overhand loop. I'll take the working end, I'll cross over, I'll reach behind and grab that loop and bring it through. Now it's kind of compact, right? I'm tying this, I want a really nice and small butterfly. I want it fairly close to the end. That's close enough for this demonstration. That doesn't need to be right up against the end. It can be just a little bit away and just big enough to accept the carabiner. It could be a tiny bit smaller than that. So there's our butterfly. Left side is complete. Let's go to the right side. Okay, so this, I'll tie a quick stopper knot on it, temporary stopper knot. That's the other end of the line. Here is the 4-foot length in my hand. I'll start with the end that's sealed, and I will create another scaffold knot. I prefer this one to actually have 4 turns, and it's also going to integrate this link of chain. It's going to be integrated into it, and I'll show you how to do that. Again, I'll start with my left index finger out, and I'll start with only 2 wraps. 1, 2 over my finger. Now I'm going to take that link of chain and I'm going to place it on the standing end. And I will thread this through 2 more times. So this becomes a 4-turn scaffold knot with a link of chain stuck inside of it. Why would we do such a thing? Well, turns out it winds up being a pretty cool tender. And I'm not saying there's not other ways to do this. There are some other ways. I just find this to be pretty simple and based on building blocks I've already given you. I'll then take this end and I'll shove it through so a loop appears where my finger does. Self-filming, of course, so hopefully I'm still in your field of view. Now here's what I learned in the course of testing this over a hunting season. I tried it just like this, and it turns out that sometimes that tender can basically destabilize this loop. And so what I do for additional security, I'll make the loop nice and big for a moment. I'm going to create a girth hitch inside of it. I'm making a girth hitch inside of my scaffold knot loop. And that's where my carabiner is going to go. And then I'll simply take the slack out. Just working that back. So what do I have here? Got a lot of barrels in that knot. 4 of them are from a scaffold and 1 of them is from a girth hitch. But it really cinches on that carabiner, really holds it in place. And of course, if you needed to reorient this, you could pop it out and put it on 180 degrees opposite. That's no big deal. But we've got ourselves a scaffold knot that's cinched on that beener, and here is our tending device. All right, next, we need to attach this. This is on my right hip. This is on my left hip. We need to attach it here with my Blake's hitch. And I'm going to do it in this fashion. I've got the chain link on my right. Let's zoom in just a little bit here so you can follow this closely. This is the JRB Blake's hitch 5.2 variant. This is, see my video, Blake's hitch masterclass, where I showed you how to tie this variant of the Blake's hitch. You can use a 4.2 with a regular stopper. That works too. I just prefer this. It's a little bit more stable. So I take the long end and I place it over the other side of the system, and I only have about an inch or so in between here. I'm trying to keep it very compact, and I'm going to make a five upward coils. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times around the back. And if you just look at what I have there, 5 coils, you can see a Blake's hitch forming down across the front, around the back, and I'm going to go up through 2 strands. It's just that I prefer to go up with a bite instead of a line. Either works. And with that bite, I can lock it. I can lock it with the other side. Okay. Got a Blake's hitch. And then I simply take the other end of the long line. This is the 10-foot end where I had that stopper knot. I put it through the link of chain. I put it through the link of chain, and I'll reform my stopper knot. Of course, I can't really completely load this and stay in your field of view, but here you go. We've got a self-tending Blake's hitch. And the last thing I need to do is decide if I want to trim these ends. This end here, I'm fine. I'm fine with this end being a couple inches long. This one here, that's just a little longer than I want it to be. And so I will put a piece of heat shrink tubing over it. I will step out of your field of view for just a moment while I cut that. And this is going to wind up being, 44 instead of 48 inches based on how much I took off. I'll heat that up. I don't want my tails to be super small, because I may want to untie this and inspect it and retie it, right? We see my video on rope and cord inspection. We don't leave friction hitches attached forever. And we might decide after a season that this thing's fine for another, or we might decide that we're gonna change it and put on a new piece of cord, like I just did. This is brand new cord. I'm replacing the cord I had on for the season. And that is the deal. When I want to use it in lineman's mode, as you saw, this goes on my left hip. This goes on my right hip. This goes on my right hip and auto tens. When I want to use it as a gear hanger, I connect that there. I can put my pack here. The last thing I need to do is attach my bow holder. And that's pretty simple. I'll just put it on the line here. And I put it through the shaft, and I'll just use 2 cable ties. One will do, but I find 2 to be slightly more stable. I don't make it really tight. So this is one take, if you haven't figured that out. I don't have cord to burn. And look at that, it slides, it's got some resistance. I can put it where I need it to be. Not sure where my snips are. We'll just amputate these with my knife for now and do the fine work later. So again, remember, we might rarely need all of this cord. So we can make a really healthy stopper knot if we want, and we can get creative with how to do that. We want something easy to untie. So let's check this out. Let me make a 4-turn scaffold knot. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to make it with a really long tail, and I'll show you why. So I've got, because I want to basically use up some cord. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This could be a 3, but I'm trying to consume cord. And then what I'll do is I'll take the tail and I'll stick it through there. So I've got effectively a stopper knot. It's not the world's strongest stopper knot, but it consumes a lot of cord, so that in the rare event I climb a big tree and I want my line to be longer, let's watch how much cord I've used here. So I'm going to hold my hand here while I explode this scaffold knot. Look, I've just used up 2 feet of cord in that stopper knot. So again, always having a little extra cord, I always would err on the side of that, because we just never know when we might find ourselves in a situation where we need it. I'll just make this again with 3 turns. You can get creative, right? I could put a bite through instead. I could put a bite through. I still have a stopper knot, but it's easy to remove. You've got the idea. Lineman's belt, gear hanger, and rope deflector in one. Let me know if you have any questions. Keep your eye on the website, and look forward to using this extensively. And in the future, maybe we'll give you a different design with something with a more elegant friction hitch where we can eliminate that link of chain. But this is really nice because you can just make it with one type of cordage. Thank you very much.